My father quietly set up a trust for my 8-year-old daughter, $156,000 in her name only, and he never told my mother. Years later, at her 10th birthday, my mother demanded the account number to help pay for school. I didn't argue. I handed her a document and said, "Read what it says about who can access it." She couldn't finish speaking. Some people in my family still think I went too far. I need you to tell me. We were standing in my parents' dining room, 43 people. My daughter's birthday party, pink streamers. A sheet cake from the bakery my mother had used for every family event since I was a child. My mother had just finished her toast. Everyone was smiling. My father had died 6 months earlier. This was the first big family gathering without him. My mother set down her champagne flute and asked if she could speak with me privately. We stepped into the hallway. She said she had been thinking about Lily's future. She said my father would have wanted her to help. She said she needed the account number for the trust. I could see my daughter through the doorway, laughing with her cousins. I had known this moment was coming since the funeral. I reached into my purse and handed my mother a folder. I said, "Read what it says about who can manage the funds." She opened it. Her face changed. She looked up at me. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Let me tell you how we got here. My mother has always been certain about two things. First, that she understands money better than anyone else in the family. Second, that I do not understand money at all. When I was 24, I started my first business. My mother told me I was being impractical. She said I should get a job with benefits. She said this at a family dinner in front of my aunts, my sister, and my grandmother. My sister nodded. My aunts made sympathetic faces. I smiled and said I would think about it. I signed my first contract 2 weeks later. $18,000 for a 6-month project. I didn't tell anyone. When I was 28, I bought my first rental property. My mother said I was overextending myself. She said this in the kitchen while we were preparing Thanksgiving dinner. My sister was there. My sister-in-law was there. My mother said real estate was a gamble and I should be more conservative. She said my father had always been conservative and that was why they were comfortable. I nodded and said she was probably right. The property appraised at $43,000 more than I paid for it within 9 months. I didn't mention it. When I was 31, I told my family I was consulting full-time. My mother asked what that meant. I said I helped companies improve their operations. She asked how much that paid. I said it varied. She patted my hand and said it was good that I was trying different things. She said some people are late bloomers. My sister laughed and said at least I was keeping busy. I smiled and poured more wine. I had cleared $270,000 that year. My father knew. He didn't know the exact numbers, but he knew I was doing well. He never said anything in front of my mother. But sometimes when we were alone, he would ask how things were going. I would say fine. He would nod and say good. Once, he asked if I had anyone helping me with the legal side of things. I said I had an attorney. He said good. He said that was smart. 3 months later, he called and said he wanted to set up something for Lily. He said he had been thinking about her future. He said he wanted to make sure she had options. He asked if I would be comfortable with him establishing a trust. I said of course. He said he wanted me to be the trustee. He said he didn't want my mother involved. He didn't say why. I didn't ask. The trust was funded with $156,000. My name was listed as sole trustee. My mother's name did not appear anywhere in the documentation. My father said he would tell her when the time was right. He died 4 months later. Heart attack. He was 68. At the funeral, my mother held my hand and said we would get through this together. She said she was grateful she had always handled the finances because at least that was one less thing to worry about. My sister agreed. She said it was good that Mom was so organized. My mother did handle their finances. She managed their checking account and their savings. She paid their bills. She balanced their budget. What she didn't know was that my father had maintained separate accounts for years. Investment accounts, retirement funds that weren't in her name, the trust for Lily. He had never hidden them. He simply never mentioned them, and she never asked. I found out the full scope 2 weeks after the funeral when the estate attorney called. My father had named me executor. My mother didn't know that either. The attorney's name was Richard Dalton. He had worked with my father for 16 years. He walked me through every account, every asset, every document. He said my father had been very clear about his wishes. He said my father had updated everything 8 months before he died. He said my father had specifically instructed that the trust for Lily remain private until Lily turned 18 or until my mother attempted to access it, whichever came first. I asked why my father would set it up that way. Richard said my father never explained his reasoning, but he said my father had been very firm about the conditions. I went home and sat in my kitchen for 2 hours. I didn't cry. I just sat there trying to understand what my father had been protecting Lily from, or what he had been protecting me from. My mother called the next day. She said she needed help understanding some of the estate paperwork. I went over. We sat at her dining room table. She had organized everything into folders, color-coded tabs, highlighters. She walked me through the checking account, the savings, the insurance payout. She said it was less than she expected, but they would be fine. She said she was grateful my father had been so responsible. I didn't correct her. The accounts she was looking at represented about 30% of my father's actual estate. I nodded and said he had always been careful. She smiled and said that was true. If you have ever been counted out by someone who should have known better, you already know what that silence feels like. 6 months passed. I visited my mother every Sunday. We had lunch. We talked about normal things: Lily's school, the weather, my sister's promotion. My mother never asked about the estate beyond what she could see in her own accounts. I never offered additional information. Then came Lily's 10th birthday party. My mother had insisted on hosting. She said it was important to maintain family traditions. She said my father would have wanted it. I didn't argue. I helped her plan the menu, I ordered the cake, I wrapped presents. The party was scheduled for 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday in March, 43 people. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family, friends. My mother's house had a large backyard. The weather was perfect. Lily wore a yellow dress. She was happy. My mother gave a toast at 3:15. She talked about my father. She said he had loved Lily so much. She said he would have been so proud of the young woman she was becoming. She said family was everything. Everyone raised their glasses. My mother's eyes were wet. So were mine. Then she asked to speak with me privately. We stepped into the hallway between the dining room and the kitchen. I could still hear the party. Someone was laughing. Kids were running. My mother closed the door most of the way. She said she had been thinking. She said Lily was getting older and would need things. Better schools. Tutors maybe. College eventually. She said my father would have wanted to help. She said she remembered him mentioning something about setting aside money for Lily. I didn't say anything. My mother continued. She said she had been going through some of my father's papers. She said she found a reference to an account. She said she couldn't access it. She said she needed the account number so she could help make sure Lily had what she needed. I waited. My mother's face was kind. Concerned. She reached out and touched my arm. She said she knew money was probably tight for me. She said she wasn't trying to interfere. She just wanted to help her granddaughter. I opened my purse. I took out the folder I had been carrying for 3 weeks. Ever since my mother had started asking questions about my father's papers, I handed it to her. I said, "Read what it says about who can manage the funds." She opened it. The first page was the trust documentation. Her name was not on it. My name was listed as sole trustee. The second page was a letter from Richard Dalton explaining the terms. The third page was the investment summary. $156,000 had grown to $172,000. My mother looked up. Her mouth opened. She started to say something, stopped, tried again. Nothing came out. Her face went through several changes. Confusion, shock, something that looked like anger but sharper. Finally she said, "When did you know about this?" I said, "Since Dad died." She said, "And you didn't tell me?" I said, "Dad didn't want you to know." She stared at me. I could hear my sister's voice from the other room asking where we kept the candles. My mother's hand was shaking slightly. She said, "Why would he do that?" I said, "You should ask yourself that question." Everything I had built was about to be tested in front of 43 people who had absolutely no idea it existed. My mother's hand tightened on the folder. She looked at the papers again, back at me. Her voice came out different than I'd ever heard it. "How long have you been planning this?" I met her eyes. "I haven't been planning anything. I've been managing what Dad asked me to manage." "You let me think," she stopped, started again. "All this time you let me believe. I let you believe what you wanted to believe." She stepped closer. "Does your sister know?" "No. Does anyone know?" "The people who need to know." Her face hardened. She closed the folder. "We're not done with this conversation." I nodded toward the dining room. 43 people are waiting for us to cut the cake." She stared at me for 3 full seconds. Then she turned and walked back into the party. I followed. She smiled. She laughed at someone's joke. She helped Lily blow out the candles. She served cake. She was perfect. I went home that night and sat in my office. I had built something over the past 6 months, something my mother couldn't see. Something most of my family couldn't see. I hadn't built it to hurt anyone. I had built it because my father had handed me a responsibility and I took it seriously. The trust was only part of it. After my father died, I had spent 3 weeks going through his estate with Richard Dalton. My father had been more than comfortable. He had been wealthy. Quietly, carefully wealthy. The kind of wealth that doesn't announce itself. He had invested well. He had been patient. He had protected what mattered. Richard had walked me through every account. He explained that my father had structured everything very deliberately. The house was in my mother's name. Her security was guaranteed. But everything else, the investments, the retirement accounts, the business interests my father had maintained, those were set up differently. I was named as executor. I had full authority. My mother would receive exactly what my father had designated for her. It was generous. It was fair. But it wasn't everything. Richard asked if I understood why my father might have set things up this way. I said I was beginning to. Over the following months, I had done exactly what my father's documentation instructed. I had maintained the accounts. I had consulted with the advisors he had used. I had protected Lily's trust. I had kept everything separate and clear. I had also continued building my own business. In the year since my father's death, I had expanded into 3 new markets. I had hired 2 employees. I had signed contracts worth $490,000. My mother knew none of this. What she knew was that I visited every Sunday, that I helped her with errands, that I brought Lily to family dinners, that I smiled when she gave me advice about being more practical. What she didn't know could fill a filing cabinet. 2 weeks after the birthday party, my mother called. She said she wanted to have lunch, just the 2 of us. I knew what was coming. I said of course. We met at the restaurant she liked, the one with white tablecloths and servers who remembered her name. She ordered her usual salad. I ordered the salmon. She asked about Lily's school. I said it was going well. She asked about work. I said it was fine. Then she set down her fork. I've been thinking about the trust. I waited. Your father should have told me. Her voice was measured, controlled. I was his wife for 41 years. I should have known. Maybe he had his reasons. What reasons? She leaned forward slightly. I managed our money. I made sure we were secure. I was responsible. You managed some of the money. Her jaw tightened. What's that supposed to mean? It means Dad had accounts you didn't know about. He had investments you weren't tracking. He made decisions he didn't discuss with you. That's not, she stopped, breathed. He trusted me. He did, with certain things. The server appeared to refill our water. My mother waited until she left. I want to understand why you're the trustee. Why not me? I'm Lily's grandmother. Because Dad wanted me to be the trustee. But why? I looked at her directly. You should ask yourself why you need access to Lily's money. Her face changed. I don't need access. I want to help. Help how? I have ideas, good schools, programs, opportunities. Lily's school is excellent. She's in programs. She has opportunities. My mother's voice sharpened. Better opportunities, things you might not be able to afford. There it was, the assumption, the same one she'd been making for years. I took a sip of water. I can afford what Lily needs. Can you? She tilted her head. Because consulting work is unpredictable. I know you're trying, but what? But you're not exactly established. You don't have the security some people have, and that's fine. That's why family helps family. I set down my glass. I'm more established than you think. She smiled, gentle, patronizing. Sweetheart, I'm not criticizing, I'm just being realistic. I could have ended it there. I could have shown her my business accounts, my client list, the contracts I had signed, the revenue I had generated, the security I had built that was triple what she imagined possible. Instead, I said, I appreciate your concern. She relaxed. She thought she had won. We finished lunch. She paid. She hugged me in the parking lot and said she loved me. I said I loved her too. I drove to my office and called Patricia Reyes, my attorney. Patricia had been working with me for 4 years. She specialized in business law and estate planning. She was sharp and unimpressed by performance. Patricia answered on the second ring. How did lunch go? Exactly as expected. Does she know anything new? No. Good. Patricia's voice was crisp. I got the updated documentation from Richard. Everything on your father's estate is clean. The trust is airtight. Your mother has no legal access and no grounds to challenge. What if she tries? Then she loses. Patricia paused. But she'll make noise. You should be prepared for that. I am. Are you? Patricia's tone shifted slightly. Because family cases get messy. People say things. They make accusations. Even when they have no case, they can create problems. I know. Do you want me to prepare anything preemptively? I thought about that. Not yet. But stay ready. Always am. I hung up and sat at my desk. My office was small but professional. Large windows, clean lines, Furniture that was good quality but not flashy. I had chosen everything carefully. This was where I met clients. This was where I built the business my mother thought was barely sustainable. Last year my revenue was $270,000. This year I was on track for $420,000. I had proposals pending that could push it past $500,000. I employed 2 people full-time. I had retainer agreements with 6 companies. I had a waiting list. My mother had no idea. 3 weeks later, my sister called. Her name is Jennifer. She's 2 years younger than me. She works in marketing for a pharmaceutical company. She's good at her job. She makes $78,000 a year. She thinks that's excellent money. Jennifer said Mom had been upset. She said Mom felt like I was shutting her out. She said Mom was only trying to help with Lily. I asked Jennifer what Mom had told her. Jennifer hesitated. Then, she said Dad set up some account for Lily. She said you won't let her help manage it. She said she doesn't understand why you're being so protective. Did she tell you how much is in the account? No, she just said it was supposed to be for Lily's future. I wondered how much my mother had actually told her. I wondered if Jennifer knew about the other accounts, the investments, the structure my father had built. I said, Dad set up a trust, I'm the trustee, that's all there is to it. Jennifer's voice softened. I know, but Mom feels left out. Can't you just include her a little, let her feel involved? Involved how? I don't know, show her the statements, ask her opinion. She raised 2 kids, she knows about planning for the future. This isn't about planning, it's about following Dad's instructions. But Dad's gone. Jennifer said it gently. And Mom's here, she's hurting. She misses him. Maybe letting her be part of this would help her feel connected to him. I closed my eyes. This was the version of the story my mother was telling. Grief, connection, family helping family. What Jennifer didn't know was that my mother had already tried to access the account 3 times. She had called Richard Dalton twice. She had contacted the bank once. She had been turned down every time because her name wasn't on the paperwork. Each time, Richard had called me. Each time I had said no. My mother wasn't grieving, she was strategizing. I told Jennifer I would think about it. She said thank you. She said she knew I was doing my best. She said she loved me. I said I loved her too. I didn't tell her that Mom had already escalated to the bank. I didn't tell her about the calls to Richard. I didn't tell her that our mother was currently shopping for an attorney who might help her challenge the trust. I knew because Richard had sources. Because my mother wasn't subtle, because she had asked questions in places where people talked. I called Patricia again. I told her what Jennifer had said. Patricia made a sound that might have been a laugh. She's building a narrative, making you look unreasonable, setting up her family to support her if this goes public. I know. What do you want to do? Wait. For what? For her to make a mistake. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then, you're more like your father than I thought. I didn't know how to take that. I hung up and went back to work. 2 months passed. Summer came. My mother hosted a 4th of July barbecue. I brought Lily. My sister brought her husband and their 2 kids. My aunts came. My uncles, cousins, the same 40-plus people who showed up to everything. My mother was gracious. She served potato salad and burgers. She asked everyone about their lives. She hugged Lily and told her she was getting so tall. She was perfect. Except she barely spoke to me. She was polite. She smiled when necessary. But she didn't ask me about work. She didn't ask about Lily's summer plans. She didn't pull me aside for private conversations. She treated me like an acquaintance she was obligated to be nice to. I noticed. So did Jennifer. Jennifer cornered me by the dessert table. Have you talked to Mom? We talk every Sunday. You know what I mean? Jennifer glanced toward where our mother was laughing with an aunt. She's hurt. Can't you just apologize? For what? For shutting her out. I didn't shut her out, I followed Dad's instructions. Jennifer's voice dropped. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Just let her help with Lily's account. What's the harm? I looked at my sister. She was genuinely confused. She thought this was about stubbornness. She thought I was being difficult for no reason. I couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. Not until I was ready. I said, I can't do that. Jennifer shook her head. You're going to regret this. She walked away. I stayed by the dessert table. I ate a brownie. I watched my family laugh and talk and celebrate. I watched my mother hold court like she always did. Confident. Certain. In control. What she didn't know was that I had just signed the largest contract of my career. $680,000 over 18 months. It would double my revenue. It would require me to hire 3 more people. It would establish me as one of the leading consultants in my field in the entire region. I had signed it 4 days earlier. I hadn't told anyone. I finished my brownie and went to find Lily. She was playing with her cousins. She was happy. That was all that mattered. I drove home that night and checked my email. There was a message from Richard Dalton. Subject line, update. I opened it. Richard had been contacted by an attorney named Martin Cross. Martin Cross was representing my mother. He wanted to discuss the trust. He wanted to schedule a meeting. He wanted to explore options for giving my mother access. Richard had declined the meeting. He had referred Martin Cross to the trust documentation. He had politely explained that there were no options to explore. Martin Cross had responded. He suggested that perhaps we could find a compromise. Perhaps my mother could be added as a co-trustee. Perhaps she could have advisory input. Perhaps we could all sit down and work something out. Richard had declined again. He had copied me on his response. It was professional and final. I wrote back, "Thank you, let me know if he contacts you again." Richard responded within minutes, "Will do, for what it's worth, your father would be proud." I sat there staring at that sentence. My father had seen something, he had known something, he had protected Lily from something specific, and now I understood what it was. My mother didn't want to help. She wanted control. She wanted access. She wanted to be the one who decided how Lily's future unfolded. Not because she didn't trust me, because she couldn't stand that my father had trusted me more. I closed my laptop. I had been building towards something for months without fully realizing it. Every deflection, every calm response, every time I had smiled and nodded while my mother patronized me, I had been gathering information. I had been documenting. I had been preparing. Patricia called the next morning. Martin Cross contacted me. I wasn't surprised. What did he say? He wanted to know if you'd be open to mediation. He positioned it as a family healing opportunity. Patricia's tone was dry. I told him there was nothing to mediate. The trust is valid. The terms are clear. Your mother has no legal standing. How did he respond? He said families shouldn't fight over money. He said maybe we could find common ground. He said your mother is grieving and just wants to feel included. Patricia paused. He's good. He's making this about emotion instead of law. Can he challenge the trust? He can try. He won't win, but he can make noise. He can file motions. He can drag this out. Patricia's voice sharpened. Is that what you want to deal with? No. Then you have two options. One, you give your mother some kind of access, something symbolic that makes her feel involved. Two, you prepare for a fight. I thought about my mother's face at the birthday party. The moment she realized she had no control. The way she had looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. I thought about my father, the accounts he had kept separate, the instructions he had left, the trust he had placed in me instead of her. I thought about Lily, 10 years old, happy, unaware that her future was being fought over by adults who claimed to love her. I'll prepare for a fight. Patricia was quiet for a beat. Okay, then let's do this right. I'm going to need everything. Every conversation your mother has had about the trust. Every attempt she's made to access it. Every person she's contacted. Every statement she's made about her intentions. I have most of that. Get me the rest. We build the record now, before she files anything, before this gets public. I spent the next week documenting everything. I pulled call logs. I got statements from the bank. I compiled Richard's notes about my mother's attempts to access the account. I recorded dates and conversations and the exact words people had used. It was meticulous, it was exhausting, it was necessary. By the end of the week, Patricia had a file 3 inches thick. She called me after she reviewed it. This is good. If she challenges, we're ready, but there's something else you should consider. What? Your own finances. If this goes to court, she'll try to argue you're mismanaging the trust. She'll try to claim you're not qualified. She'll want to see your income, your business records, your personal accounts. So if you're barely getting by like she thinks, she might have a case for arguing someone more financially stable should manage Lily's money. I almost laughed. That won't be a problem. You sure? I'm sure. Patricia paused. How sure? I told her my revenue numbers. Last year, this year, projected next year. I told her about the contracts, the clients, the growth trajectory. I told her about the employees I had hired, the office I leased, the business I had built while my mother thought I was struggling. Patricia was silent for a long moment. Then, does your mother know any of this? No. Does anyone in your family know? No. Another pause, then Patricia said something I'll never forget. You've been playing the long game. I've been building something real? Same thing, her voice shifted, professional again. Okay, here's what we do. When she files, not if, when we respond with everything. The trust documentation, the legal framework, and your financials. We show the court that you're not just qualified to manage Lily's money, you're more qualified than your mother ever was. That'll hurt her. Yes. That'll hurt the whole family. Yes. They'll never see me the same way. Probably not. Patricia's voice was steady. But here's the question. Do you want them to see you as struggling and sweet and in need of help, or do you want them to see you as you actually are? I looked out my office window. The sun was setting. The light was golden. Everything felt very clear. I want them to see the truth. Then we're ready. I hung up. I sat in my office as the light faded. I thought about my father, about the secrets he had kept, about the structures he had built to protect what mattered, about the trust he had placed in me when he could have placed it anywhere. My mother was coming. She was building her case. She was gathering her allies. She was preparing to fight for control of something that was never meant to be hers. What she didn't know was that I was already 10 steps ahead. What she didn't know was that every time she had dismissed me, every time she had patronized me, every time she had assumed I needed her help, I had been building something she couldn't touch. What she didn't know was that I had become exactly what my father believed I could be. Everything I had built was about to be tested in a way that would change my family forever. I want to know if you would have said what I said next. Because I still think about it. My mother filed for co-trusteeship on a Thursday in September. Martin Cross submitted the motion to the probate court. The document was 17 pages. It argued that my mother had been unfairly excluded from a decision that affected her granddaughter's welfare. It argued that as my father's widow and Lily's grandmother, she had both the right and the responsibility to be involved in managing Lily's financial future. It argued that I lacked the experience and stability to serve as sole trustee. Richard called me within an hour of being served. His voice was tight. She's claiming your father was experiencing cognitive decline when he established the trust. She's suggesting he wasn't competent to make that decision. I sat down. She's saying Dad didn't know what he was doing? That's what she's arguing. Martin's being careful with the language, but yes, that's the implication. I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, something colder. She have any evidence? No, but she doesn't need evidence to file, she just needs enough to get a hearing. Richard paused. This is going to be public. The family will know. Your mother's going to tell her version first. Let her. You're sure you want to do this, because once we respond, there's no walking it back. I'm sure. Then I'll coordinate with Patricia. We'll file our response within the week. I hung up and sat in my office for a long time. The light outside was changing. Autumn coming. I thought about my father, about the last conversation we'd had before he died. He'd asked if I was happy. I'd said yes. He'd nodded and said good, that was all. Now my mother was claiming he hadn't been competent. She was erasing his choices to get what she wanted. I called Patricia. File everything, original timeline. You got it. Patricia's voice was steady. This is going to get ugly. I know. Your family is going to take sides. I know. Your mother is going to make you look like the villain. Let her try. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, let's go to work. The family found out 3 days later. My mother called a family meeting. She invited everyone, my sister, my aunts and uncles, my cousins. She said it was important. She said it was about my father's legacy. I wasn't invited. Jennifer called me that night. Her voice was strained. Mom says you're trying to keep her away from Lily's money. She says Dad would be heartbroken. She says you're being vindictive because you've always been jealous of her relationship with him. Is that what she said? She's crying. I've never seen her like this. Jennifer's voice cracked. Why are you doing this? Just let her be part of it. That's all she wants. That's not all she wants. What does that mean? It means she filed a legal motion claiming Dad wasn't mentally competent when he set up the trust. It means she's trying to undo his decisions. It means she's attacking his judgment to get control. Jennifer went silent. Then, she wouldn't do that. She did, 3 days ago. Ask her. You're lying. I have the court documents. Do you want me to send them? Jennifer hung up. My Aunt Margaret called the next morning. She was my father's sister. She'd always been kind to me. Her voice was careful. Your mother says you're fighting her in court. She filed against me. I'm defending what Dad set up. She says he was confused at the end. She says he didn't understand what he was signing. He understood perfectly. How do you know? Because I was there, because his attorney was there, because there are witnesses and documentation and recordings. Margaret was quiet. Then, recordings? Dad recorded a statement when he established the trust, explaining his decisions, explaining why he structured things the way he did. Does your mother know about this? She's about to. Margaret breathed out slowly. This is going to destroy the family. No. Mom's lies are going to destroy the family. I'm just going to tell the truth. She hung up without saying goodbye. The response was filed 6 days after my mother's motion. Patricia and Richard had worked together, 23 pages. It included the trust documentation, my father's recorded statement, witness affidavits from the attorney and the notary who had been present, My father's medical records showing he'd had a full cognitive evaluation 2 months before establishing the trust. The results were perfect. It also included my financial records, 3 years of business revenue, tax returns, client contracts, bank statements, investment portfolios, everything that showed I wasn't struggling. Everything that showed I was more than qualified to manage Lily's trust. Everything that showed my mother had been wrong about me for years. The document was submitted to the court on a Tuesday. Copies were sent to Martin Cross. My mother received hers by courier on Wednesday morning. She called me that afternoon. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I let that go too. On the third call, I answered. Her voice was shaking. How could you? How could I what? Defend Dad's decisions? You made me look like a fool. You told the court I was lying about your father. You were lying about him. I was trying to protect Lily. From what? From the trust her grandfather set up for her, from the trustee he chose? From you? Her voice rose. You don't know what you're doing. You've never been good with money. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You want control. You can't stand that Dad trusted me instead of you. That's not true. Then why did you file? Why did you claim he was incompetent? Why are you trying to undo everything he carefully planned? She didn't answer. You saw the financials, I continued. You know now, you know I've been fine, you know I didn't need your help, you know everything you assumed about me was wrong. You hid that from me. Her voice was sharp now. You let me think you were struggling, you let me worry, you lied. I didn't lie, I just didn't correct your assumptions. That's the same thing? No, it's not. You made up a story about who I was. You decided I was irresponsible and impractical and needed guidance. You never asked, you never looked, you just assumed. And now you're angry because reality doesn't match what you wanted to believe. I'm your mother. And Dad was your husband. And he didn't trust you with this. Have you asked yourself why? Silence. Then she hung up. 2 weeks later, my mother invited the family to Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone, my sister and her family, my aunts and uncles, cousins, the whole network. She sent a group email, formal, polite. She said it was important to come together during difficult times. She said family was what mattered. I was included in the email. I almost didn't go. But then I thought about my father. About what he would want. About Lily, who loved Thanksgiving and loved her grandmother and had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. I RSVP'd yes. Patricia called when she saw the email. I'd forwarded it to her. You know this is a setup. I know. She's going to ambush you in front of everyone. She's going to make you defend yourself publicly. Good, good. I'm tired of this being private. Let her try. Patricia laughed. It was a sharp sound. Okay, but I want you prepared. What's your line? My line? The thing you say when she comes at you. The sentence that ends it. You need to know it now before you walk in that door. I thought about it, about everything I'd built, about everything my father had trusted me with, about the truth that my mother couldn't accept. I'll know it when I need it. Thanksgiving was at 2 o'clock. I arrived at 1:55. Lily was with me. She wore a blue dress. She was excited. She ran inside ahead of me to find her cousins. My mother was in the kitchen. She looked up when I walked in. Her face was composed. Perfect. I'm glad you came. Of course. We need to talk after dinner privately. If you want. She turned back to the turkey. I went to find Lily. She was in the living room with her cousins. My sister was there. She looked at me and then looked away. My Aunt Margaret nodded. My Uncle David smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Everyone knew. Everyone had taken sides or decided not to take sides or was waiting to see what happened. Dinner was tense. People talked too much or not enough. My mother served the turkey. She said grace. She thanked everyone for coming. She said family was the most important thing we had. Then she looked at me. Some of us forget that sometimes. Some of us put other things first. The table got very quiet. I met her eyes. What things? Pride, control, the need to be right. Her voice was steady, kind even. I know you're angry with me. I know you feel I overstepped. But everything I've done has been out of love, out of concern for Lily. Is that why you told the court Dad was incompetent? My sister made a small sound. My Aunt Margaret set down her fork. My mother's face didn't change. I said he might have been influenced. That's different. Influenced by who? By people who wanted to benefit from his generosity. You mean me? I didn't say that. You implied it, in a legal filing, in front of a judge. My Uncle David cleared his throat. Maybe we should talk about this later. It's Thanksgiving. I didn't look away from my mother. She brought it up. My mother's voice stayed calm. I brought up family, the importance of family, the way family should support each other instead of fighting. Then why are we in court? Because you refused to compromise. I asked for inclusion. You refused. I asked for transparency. You refused. I asked to be part of my granddaughter's future. Refused. I followed Dad's instructions. Your father wasn't himself at the end. He was evaluated by 2 doctors. He was completely competent. The court has the records. My mother's composure cracked slightly. He was grieving. He was processing his mortality. He wasn't thinking clearly about what? About trusting you? The room was absolutely still. My sister was staring at her plate. My Aunt Margaret was looking at my mother with something new in her face. My mother recovered. About the complexity of family dynamics, about how his decisions would affect relationships, about he knew exactly what he was doing. My voice was quiet, level. He knew you would do this. That's why he structured everything the way he did. That's not true. Then why did he keep separate accounts you didn't know about? Why did he work with attorneys you never met? Why did he record a statement explaining his decisions? My sister looked up. What statement? I kept my eyes on my mother. The one where he explains that he loves Mom but doesn't trust her judgment about money. The one where he says he wants to make sure Lily's future is protected from family interference. The one where he names me as the person he trusts most to follow his wishes. My mother's hands tightened on her napkin. You're twisting his words. I'm repeating them. Exactly. If you are still here, hit like. I need to know you saw that. My Aunt Margaret spoke carefully. Is this statement part of the court record? Yes. Can we hear it? My mother stood up. That's private. That's between. It's evidence in a public filing, I said. Anyone can request it. My sister found her voice. What does it say? I looked at Jennifer, really looked at her. She seemed smaller than I remembered, uncertain. It says Dad loved Mom. It says he provided for her completely. It says she would never have to worry about money. But it also says he knew she had a need to control financial decisions. He says he watched her pressure him about investments for years. He says he learned to keep certain things separate to avoid conflict. My mother's face had changed. The composure was gone. He never said that. You're making that up. It's his voice, on a recording, dated and witnessed. I don't believe you. I reached into my purse. I pulled out my phone. I opened a file. I set the phone on the table. Do you want to hear it? The room was frozen. My mother stared at the phone like it was a weapon. My Uncle David spoke quietly. Maybe we should. I pressed play. My father's voice filled the room. Clear, strong, the way he sounded when he was being deliberate about something. This is Robert Chen. Today is March 15th, 2024. I'm recording this statement in the presence of my attorney, Richard Dalton, to explain my decisions regarding the trust I'm establishing for my granddaughter, Lily. I love my wife. I've been married to her for 41 years. She's been a good mother and a good partner. But over the course of our marriage, I've learned that she and I have different approaches to financial planning. She believes in control, in making sure she has oversight of every decision, in being the person who approves or denies how money is used. I respect that about her, but I don't agree with it, and I don't want Lily's future subject to it. My daughter has proven herself to be responsible, thoughtful, and capable. She's built a successful business. She manages her finances well. She makes good decisions. More importantly, she understands that money is a tool, not a measure of worth. I trust her to manage Lily's trust according to what Lily needs, not according to what my wife thinks Lily should have. This decision will hurt my wife. I know that. She'll feel excluded. She'll feel that I don't trust her. But that's not accurate. I trust her completely with many things. I just don't trust her to separate her need for control from Lily's actual best interests. I'm establishing this trust with my daughter as sole trustee. I'm doing it now, while I'm healthy and clear-minded, so there can be no question about my intent. I'm recording this statement so that if there's ever a challenge, everyone will know exactly what I wanted and why. I love my family, all of them. This isn't about love. It's about making sure the right person is in charge of the right thing. The recording ended. No one moved. My mother was looking at the phone. Her face had gone through several changes. Shock, hurt, something that looked like rage but quieter. My sister had tears on her face. My Aunt Margaret was staring at my mother with an expression I couldn't read. My Uncle David was looking at his hands. I picked up my phone and put it back in my purse. My mother's voice came out hoarse. He never told me he felt that way. No, he didn't. He let me think. She stopped. Started again. All those years, he let me think I was managing everything. He let me believe I was in control. You were in control of what he wanted you to control. That's cruel. It's honest. She looked at me with something I'd never seen before, something raw. You're enjoying this. No, I'm not. You are. You're finally getting to prove you're better than me, smarter than me, more trusted. I'm not better than you. I'm just different from who you thought I was. You hid things from me. I lived my life. You assumed things about it. Those aren't the same. My sister spoke up. Her voice was shaking. How much money do you make? I looked at her. Last year, $270,000. This year, I'm on track for $420,000. Jennifer's face crumpled. And you never said anything. You never asked. You let us think. You thought what you wanted to think. I never lied. My mother stood up fully now. You let us believe you needed help. You let me worry. You let me offer advice like you were some struggling single mother who didn't know what she was doing. You offered advice because you wanted to feel superior, not because I asked for it. That's not true. Then why are we in court? If this is really about helping Lily, why did you claim Dad was incompetent? Why did you attack his judgment instead of just accepting his decision? Because it's not fair. Her voice broke on the last word. I was his wife. I stood by him for 41 years. I raised his children. I managed his household. I made sacrifices, and he didn't trust me. He trusted you. The room was utterly silent. I stood up too. He trusted you with a lot of things, just not this one thing, and instead of accepting that, you tried to destroy his reputation. You tried to claim he didn't know what he was doing. You tried to erase his choices. I was trying to protect Lily. From what? From you making mistakes. From you not understanding the responsibility. From me being better at this than you wanted me to be. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. I pulled another document from my purse. I set it on the table. This is the financial statement I submitted to the court. It shows my business revenue, my investments, my assets, my daughter's college fund that I've been building since she was born, the fund that currently has $65,000 in it, that I never mentioned, that I built myself. My mother stared at the paper. This is a list of my clients over the past 3 years, companies you've heard of, contracts you wouldn't believe I could sign, references from executives who trust me with decisions worth millions of dollars. I put another paper down. This is a letter from my financial advisor, confirming that I have a comprehensive plan for Lily's future, confirming that the trust is being managed according to professional standards, confirming that I don't need help. Another paper. This is the evaluation the court ordered, a neutral third party reviewing Dad's trust. They found it to be properly structured, legally sound, and in Lily's best interests. They recommended no changes. I looked around the table. Everyone was watching me, my sister, my aunts and uncles, my cousins in the doorway. This is who I am. This is who I've been for years, while you all assumed I was barely making it, while you all offered advice I didn't need. While you all treated me like I was lucky to have family support. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. Why didn't you tell us? Because you didn't want to know. You wanted me to be who you decided I was, and when Dad saw me for who I actually am, you couldn't stand it. She sat down slowly, heavily. My Aunt Margaret looked at the papers on the table. What happens now? I looked at my mother. That's up to her. She can withdraw the motion. She can accept Dad's decision. She can stop claiming he wasn't competent, or we can go to court. And all of this becomes public record, and everyone will know exactly what she tried to do. My mother didn't look up. I had one more thing to say. But I need you to understand something. This was never about the money. This was about you not being able to accept that Dad saw me clearly, that he trusted my judgment, that he believed I could handle responsibility you assumed I couldn't. My mother looked up. Her eyes were red. I just wanted to help. No, you wanted to control. There's a difference. My sister's voice was small. What do you want from her? I looked at Jennifer. I want her to withdraw the motion. I want her to stop claiming Dad was incompetent. I want her to apologize for trying to destroy his reputation to get what she wants. My mother's face hardened. I won't apologize for trying to protect my granddaughter. You weren't protecting her. You were protecting your ego. She stood up, unsteady. I think you should leave. This is your house. I'll leave. But the motion is still active, and if you don't withdraw it, we go to court in 3 weeks. And everything I just showed this table gets shown to a judge and entered into public record. And your friends at church and your bridge club and everyone you know will be able to read about how you tried to claim your husband wasn't competent because you couldn't accept his choices. My mother's hands were shaking now, actually shaking. You would do that to me? Your own mother? You did it first. You filed. You made the accusations. You brought us here. I didn't think you would. She stopped. Her voice broke. I didn't think you would actually fight me. I know, you thought I would back down. You thought I was still the person you could dismiss and control. But Dad knew better. That's why he chose me. I picked up my purse. I looked around the table one more time. My sister was crying. My Aunt Margaret was watching my mother with something like pity. My Uncle David wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. I called for Lily. She came running from the other room, happy, unaware. I took her hand. My mother spoke from behind me. Her voice was desperate now. If you walk out that door, you're choosing to destroy this family. I turned back. No, I'm choosing to honor Dad's wishes. You're the one who went to court. You're the one who made this public. You're the one who chose legal action over accepting reality. I'm your mother, and I loved you. But I won't let you rewrite Dad's decisions to feed your need for control. Make your choice, withdraw the motion, or see me in court. I walked out with Lily. Behind me, I heard my sister start to say something. My mother cut her off. I didn't hear what either of them said. I drove home. Lily chattered about her cousins, about the food, about how Grandma's house always smelled like cinnamon. She didn't ask why we left early. She was 10. She trusted that adults had reasons. I put her to bed that night and sat in my office. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired and clear. My phone rang at 9:30. It was my Aunt Margaret. Her voice was careful. Your mother is very upset. I know. She's saying you humiliated her in front of the family. She humiliated herself. I just told the truth. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Then, your father talked to me before he died. He said he was worried about how your mother would react to some of his decisions. He asked me to support you if things got difficult. My throat tightened. He did. He said you were stronger than anyone gave you credit for. He said you would need allies. She paused. He was right. Thank you. Your mother is going to make this hard. She's already calling people, telling her version, painting you as ungrateful and cruel. Let her. You're sure? The truth is on record now. People can believe what they want, but they can't say they don't know. Margaret made a sound that might have been agreement. For what it's worth, I believe your father made the right choice. She hung up. Over the next week, my phone rang constantly. Cousins, family, friends, people who had been at Thanksgiving. Some called to tell me I'd gone too far. Some called to ask if what my mother was saying was true. Some called just to hear my side. I told them all the same thing. My father made his choices clearly and deliberately. I was honoring those choices. My mother tried to undo them by claiming he wasn't competent. The court documentation proved otherwise. Most people didn't know what to say after that. My sister called on the 6th day. She sounded exhausted. Mom wants to meet. She wants to talk about settling this without court. Is she withdrawing the motion? She wants to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. Dad's trust is valid. The terms are clear. Either she accepts that or we go to court. She's embarrassed. The whole family knows now. She can't just back down without something. She can. She just doesn't want to. Jennifer's voice cracked. Please, she's our mother. Can't you give her a way out that doesn't destroy her? She should have thought about that before she filed. You're being cruel. No, I'm being clear. She has two options: accept Dad's decision or lose in court. Those are the only options there have ever been. Jennifer hung up. Martin Cross called Patricia 2 days later. He said my mother wanted to discuss terms for withdrawal. Patricia asked what terms. Martin said my mother wanted a written acknowledgement that she had acted out of genuine concern for Lily's welfare. She wanted assurance that she would still be involved in Lily's life. She wanted me to agree not to discuss the legal dispute with other family members. Patricia called me. What do you want me to tell him? Tell him she can withdraw unconditionally or we'll see her in court. No statements, no agreements, no negotiations. She files a withdrawal. That's it. She's not going to like that. I don't care. Patricia laughed, actually laughed. Okay, I'll let him know. Martin called back within an hour. He said my mother needed time to consider. Patricia said she had until 5 o'clock that day or we'd proceed with court preparation. At 4:47, Martin submitted the withdrawal. 1 page, no explanation, no conditions, just a formal withdrawal of the motion for co-trusteeship. It was over. Richard called me that evening. Congratulations, the case is closed. Thank you. Your father would be proud. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. Richard continued. For what it's worth, I worked with your father for 16 years. He was one of the most deliberate people I ever met. Every decision was considered. Every document was precise. He knew exactly what he was doing when he set up that trust. I know. And he knew your mother would challenge it. That's why he recorded the statement. That's why he had the medical evaluation. That's why he structured everything the way he did. He was protecting you as much as he was protecting Lily. My eyes burned. Thank you for telling me that. You did good. Not everyone would have stood firm. I hung up and sat in the silence of my office. The case was closed. The trust was protected. Lily's future was secure, but my family would never be the same. My mother stopped speaking to me entirely. No calls, no texts, no Sunday visits. When I brought Lily to see her, she was polite but distant. She hugged Lily. She asked about school. She made small talk. But she didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me beyond what was necessary. My sister took Mom's side. She said I had been unnecessarily harsh. She said I could have handled it privately. She said I chose winning over family. I reminded her that Mom had chosen court over conversation. Jennifer didn't want to hear it. My Aunt Margaret stayed neutral publicly. But she called me once a month. She asked how I was doing. She asked about Lily. She never mentioned my mother, but her calling was a statement in itself. The rest of the family scattered. Some sided with my mother. Some avoided the whole situation. A few reached out quietly to say they understood. 6 months after Thanksgiving, my mother sold the house. The one she'd lived in for 32 years. The one my father had bought. The one where every family gathering had been held. She bought a condo. 2 bedrooms, modern, no history. She didn't tell me she was moving. I found out from Jennifer, who told me curtly, like it was my fault. Maybe it was. A year after the motion was withdrawn, my business crossed $600,000 in annual revenue. I hired 2 more employees. I moved to a larger office. I signed a contract with a Fortune 500 company. I didn't tell my family. There was no one to tell who cared. Lily turned 12. She was happy. She did well in school. She had friends. She played soccer. She asked once why we didn't see Grandma as much anymore. I told her that sometimes adults have disagreements that take time to work through. She accepted that. She was a kid. She trusted that things would eventually make sense. Her trust fund continued to grow. I managed it carefully. Conservative investments, steady growth. By the time she turned 12, it had reached $194,000. She knew it existed. She knew her grandfather had set it up for her. She knew it was for college or whatever she needed for her future. She didn't know about the court case. She didn't know about the fight. She didn't need to. I saw my mother at family events. Christmas, Easter, the occasional birthday party. We were civil. We smiled for photos. We didn't speak beyond pleasantries. My sister maintained a relationship with both of us, separate, careful. She never talked about me to Mom and never talked about Mom to me. It was exhausting for her. I could see it, but she chose it. I stopped going to most family gatherings. It was easier. Lily still went sometimes. My mother was kind to her. Loving. Whatever our conflict was, she didn't punish Lily for it. I was grateful for that. My hands had stopped shaking months ago. I slept fine. I didn't regret my choices. I thought about my father sometimes, about what he'd known, about what he'd seen coming, about why he'd built so many walls between my mother and the things that mattered most. I understood now. It wasn't that he didn't love her. It was that he knew her, and he knew that her love came with conditions, with control, with the need to be the authority on everything. He'd spent 41 years managing that, building separate spaces where he could make decisions without her interference, protecting the things he cared about from her need to be in charge, and when he knew he was running out of time, he'd made sure I could do the same. I wasn't angry anymore, not at my mother. Not at my sister, not at the family members who chose sides I didn't like. I was just clear about who I was, about what I'd built, about what I was capable of protecting. My mother had wanted to believe I was weak. She'd needed to believe it, because if I was strong, if I was capable, if I was successful, then her entire understanding of our relationship was wrong, and she couldn't accept that. So she'd gone to court. She'd attacked my father's reputation. She'd tried to undo his choices. And she'd lost. I still see her sometimes. At the grocery store, at the bank, once at a restaurant where we both happen to be. We nod, we don't speak. Lily asks occasionally if Grandma and I will ever be close again. I tell her I don't know, maybe someday, maybe not. Some things can't be fixed just because we want them to be. She seems to understand that. She's a smart kid. She gets that adults are complicated. That love doesn't always look the way we want it to. That family can be both important and painful at the same time. Last month, I updated my will. Lily is 15 now. The trust fund has $241,000 in it. My business is worth close to $900,000. I have investments, property, security. When Lily turns 18, she'll have access to her trust. She'll have choices, opportunities, the kind of freedom my father wanted her to have. And she'll never have to wonder if the person managing her future had her best interests at heart, because I do. The same way my father had mine. I do not hate my mother. I just do not need her approval anymore. And apparently, that was the one thing she could never forgive. So, did I go too far or not far enough? Tell me in the comments.